welcome to my channel. Today I'm with you for some more Oracle deck exploration. I'm on an Oracle deck tip, clearly, and today I'm going to be sharing some ideas to perk up your readings, and by that I mean yes, I have come up with a wanky acronym to cover the little ideas and tips being shared in this video, because I seem to now be that person. So for perk, what I mean is P for ponder, R for research, E for excavate, and C, I know it doesn't quite work, but just go with it, right? Is create. So that's what I mean by perk, and I'm going to go through each one of them. And we're going to be looking at today Laura Tempest Sacros Liminal Spirits Oracle and Kim Kranz's The Wild Unknown Archetypes for demonstration purposes. And of course, you can apply any of these to the tarot as well. Do with these what you will. Have at it. So let's start. We'll start with this one. So let's dive in, shall we? Okay, so here I have the Liminal Spirits Oracle. It's one of my decks that I've picked out to work with through the spring season. And here is the guidebook. It's a fairly, I wouldn't say it's the chunkiest or meatiest of guidebooks, but it gives you, a decent amount of information. I've definitely seen Oracle decks that give less, but it's not sort of like a, Weaver's Oracle, or even like a Monica Badersky Between the Worlds Oracle kind of like chonka guidebook. But, I think it does a pretty good job. So as I showed in the previous video, Oracle video, I was looking at the guidebook and working within the, basically working with the deck in the way that it's intended, with either spreads or, looking at the meanings and prompts and things like that, and sort of riffing off of that and combining it with tarot. What I wanted to do here is sort of just go through this like perk thing that I've created. I say it sounds really stupid saying I've created it, because like these are not other people are doing these ideas. It's just I've applied a silly acronym to them. And some of these things I have done with tarot and with Oracle, and some of them I haven't really done as much with. Does that, I don't know if I'm articulating that thought clearly, but we'll just, never mind. I am drinking some caffeinated tea to try and I tried filming this video yesterday, and my goodness, I did a 15-minute stint and about a 26-minute stint, and I could not get my words out. I could not articulate. I was stuttering. The wrong words were coming out of my mouth to what I actually meant. My brain fog was so bad. I just had to can it all and just try again today. And so I am still feeling a bit meh, I guess I don't have a word for it. Meh is kind of like how I just describe the feeling. Meh. Bit meh. Meh implies that I don't feel well. That's not right. My brain's feeling kind of wonky, and now I've just realised I'm too warm and I need to take my sweater off because, I don't know, hold on. Oh, that was better. I was getting a right dab on. Anyway, so I can't remember what I was saying. Never mind. So yeah, let's just jump in, because I think I was just waffling about how my brain feels like it's just not. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Brain fog. Brain fog. Butts. Hold on. Let me just grab those. It's really hard shuffling while you're looking through a screen. I should look at actually what I'm doing in person. It's because I'm trying to keep it in shot, like without knocking the camera or without, bloody hell. Yeah, no, I'm going to have to not look through the screen when I shuffle, because that is like throwing off my brain box. Anyway, I don't know why I'm shuffling. It doesn't fucking matter. It's not like this is a real reading. I'm just dicking about. So, what do I mean when I say ponder, right? So, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? Right? So, we've got desert, right? So, there are two ways to do this. The first way would be to look in the book, that rhymes, and read the description of the card, and then in this particular book it has 3 different messages, and you kind of can pick the one that you feel relates to your question, if you had a question, that is. And then you could also just sort of come up with your own meanings, because there are little sections for notes in this book in certain points throughout. So but the other way that you can do this is sort of, especially if you're working with a deck and you've not pulled a certain card before. So you could, sorry, I'm just tying up my that was the strings to my joggers. I realized I hadn't retied them. I'm just tying them up. This is going great. So yeah, I'm professional. I'm not professional, actually. That's a lie. I am not actually, technically not a professional tarot reader. So it doesn't matter, does it? This is good. Embrace the chaos. Embrace the chaos. You could just riff on what desert means to you. I say riff because in the Archetypes Oracle, that's what Kim Cran sort of called it, like riffing on a card. But yeah, so sort of you pondering something. And of course you can just sort of do stream of consciousness style, just straight off the bat in your like divination journal, or you know, like leave it sitting up for the day on your desk or wherever, like, or maybe take a picture of it, put it as the screensaver on your phone, and then like at the end of the day, you know, you might sort of want more time to sort of formulate your ideas about a card or an archetype or a you know, it's like a jumping off point, right? And then write about it. You're pondering about it, and even, do you know what, if you don't like writing shit down, or you don't want to type it up in a, or like a digital journal, don't, just ponder it, just think about it, right? Just enjoy the thoughts. Sit down with it over like a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, I don't know, whatever you want to drink, a glass of whiskey, I don't know, and just ponder, you know, a good old-fashioned pondering. I don't think we take time out enough these days to just ponder. I don't do it consciously. I ponder a lot, but like it's because I've gotten distracted or I'm daydreaming. I think we all need, and I don't mean like clearing your mind and relaxing and getting into like a meditative state either. To me, that's a different thing. I'm talking about just giving yourself time to just sit down and like have a moment, you know, just a little moment to just ponder things, take it, you know, and gather your thoughts about a thing, you know, and in this case the desert, or as I almost said, the dessert, because clearly I'm hungry and want cake, I don't know. So yeah, that's the P in P.E.R.C, is to ponder, right? I don't think I'm saying anything particularly revelatory or groundbreaking with that particular prompt, but I think it's nice to have the little acronym to like remember that there are ways to, like, different ways to work with cards or with decks. Excuse me, sorry, I need to have another sip of tea because I don't want it to go cold, because cold tea is just, depends on the tea, but when it's like Assam tea, you do not want it to go cold because then it just tastes gross. So if let's just say you've pondered, so let's just come up with some ideas. What does the desert mean to me? For example, what do I think of when I think of the desert? The first thing I think of when I think of the desert is actually my when visiting Egypt and seeing the pyramids. Obviously these are cacti, and I think it's probably closer to somewhere possibly in I don't know, maybe it's New Mexico or Nevada or somewhere in Central America. I don't know. Maybe it's the Gobi Desert. I don't know. But I think when I think of deserts, I often think of, you know, visiting Cairo and seeing the pyramids and staying and there and experiencing the culture and everything. And another thing that I think of when I think of the desert, I'm not gonna lie, is the 1999 hit film The Mummy, which is for many bisexuals an awakening. I mean, my awakening happened earlier than that because I'm an old, but it was that film was made for the bisexuals, let's be honest. And yeah, so I think of the desert, I think of The Mummy. And, you know, make of that what you will. You can then riff off, like, I could riff off, I say you, I mean me, when I'm thinking about this, I can riff off of, you know, writing about memories from my trip to Egypt, or memories about how I felt when watching The Mummy for the first time, which was definitely a certain way. Or when I think about the desert, I think about driving through Nevada, through Death Valley on my honeymoon with my spouse. We just celebrated 10 years last month, which is just sort of blowing my mind. But yeah, so I think of that road trip. I think of driving through and seeing the heat haze coming off of the ground, and just that momentous experience of eloping and getting married in Las Vegas, and going on this road trip and staying in like really fun places, and then heading off to Yosemite for a bit, and like just and these are just three things. I haven't even touched on like the archetype of the desert, or just the feeling of a desert. It's hot, it's dry. You have the word conservation comes to mind, because you think of the plants that grow in the desert, and you think they're all about trying to conserve water, to conserve nutrients, to be able to stay alive. You have to be very hardy and adaptable to be able to live in the desert. And so you can then extrapolate that to for hardiness. What does it mean to be a resilient, hardy, or sort of a person that is able to conserve resources, or what I mean? There's so many ways that you can ponder and riff and journal. And of course, you all know this, right? But again, I just wanted to get the acronym in there. So the second one, right, for P.E.R.C. I've got is Excavate. And I did a little bit of this in my previous video, where I was pulling tarot cards to go alongside the Oracle deck. So here I am just going to grab my Dinosaurs de Marseille by Anastasia Cashing. I love this deck. It's so much fun. It's actually a P.E.R.C, but I tend to keep the P.E.R.C cards separate and just use it as a Marseille. And it works brilliantly as a Marseille. Again, I don't know why I'm shuffling. It doesn't really matter. It's not a real reading, or I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes. I think it's just habit, isn't it? We pick up a deck before we pull cards, we want to shuffle. It's just ingrained, right? So as I did in my previous video, you could just pull a card, right, and have like riff on what that could mean with this. So here we have the Seven of Ferns, which would be the Seven of Swords. Now that's quite interesting when you think about it, right? Because with the seven, if you think about, for example, the Smith-Waite version, where you have that person sort of, they kind of look a bit like they're skulking off, they're outside that tent, the tent in the distance, and they're skulking off, and they're carrying the swords, but they're sort of holding the swords by the blades, and it doesn't look very practical or comfortable, and they look like they're sort of in a bit of a rush, and they look tiptoeing, doing that like speedy quiet walk that we all try and do when we're trying to move quickly but quietly. And then you end up looking a bit like a sort of a cartoon burglar. You all know what I mean, right? That whoop 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 whoop. So yeah, that can you could, if you're reading with a Smith-Waite deck, how do I what's the word? A lot of people call that like the sneaky card, or the underhand card, or it's a bit mischievous, or someone's like stealing something. But then there's also the thing to be considered is, what actually, are they taking something that they need? Are they taking something they need from someone who's in a position of power? Is it someone who, for example, if someone is starving and they steal food, is that a crime? I would say no. If you see someone stealing groceries, if you see someone stealing baby formula, if you see someone stealing nappies, diapers, no, you didn't. Yeah, I would say you could tie that in with what does that mean to conserve, or getting what you need, right? It's interesting, these colors really do play in, don't they? This like yellow and these like reddy earthy brown tones. It's such a great like little duo, these decks. And then again with the sevens, with like Marseille, they can be quite disruptive, because you've got an uneven number, and it's sort of breaking the harmony of the six, which is a nice even number. It's the double three, so it's also like doubly sort of creative and generative. And then you've gotten that like broken into with the seven coming in, Seven of Swords. But seven is also the element of air, it's the element of thought, it's the element of cognition. Sevens can also be about sort of cogitating, looking inwards, again pondering things, right? So maybe sometimes you can say that the desert is almost like, the desert is fiery, right? Because you think of the heat, but it's also very dry and arid, and has an airiness about it. Or maybe you could sort of play with the idea of like fire and air, and what does that create? Because fire needs oxygen in order to fuel it. The fire can't burn without oxygen. Passion cannot thrive without the ideas to sort of the way, figuring out how to make your passions or dreams or what have you become a reality. You need both the drive and you need like the know-how or being able to learn how to do something. Anyway, I'm just riffing. But yeah, so excavate. And of course, again, you could actually ask a question about the desert. You could be like, what lesson does the desert have to give me, right? And then you could pull like 3 cards and just take it from there. I'm not going to redo all these readings because the last time I did, I'm just going to move these back a little bit. The last time I did that, the videos got really long, and I've actually got these 4 different prompts, 4 different parts of the acronym to get through, and I just think it just gets really, really long. And I want to keep this succinct because I don't want people to like bounce out of the video before they get the information. Although in saying that, I could just put like bloody timestamps, couldn't I? So yeah. So you could be like, what lesson does does it have to teach me today, this week, this month, you know, whatever. What do we have here? We have the 8 of Ferns, which would be the 8 of Swords. We have the Ace of Fossils, which would be the Ace of Wands. And then we have the Queen of Ammonites, which would be the Queen of Pentacles. So we've got this idea of feeling stuck. You know, like 8s they're double 4s. 4 is stability, right? And so you've got this stability. So 8s, sorry, can often mean like established, establishment, established like traditions. It can mean it's like feeling really stagnant or stuck. It could also represent lots of cogs, not cogs, like lots of brain, come on brain, like like structures, things that are really established. That's what I mean. And with the suit of air, we're looking at established thoughts, or maybe sort of what would it be like, ingrained thinking, or being stuck in your old idea, being stuck in a certain way of thinking or like doing things, right? So it's saying, no, this might be where you are. We've got the Ace of Wands here, and this, I feel like, again, it really ties in with the desert. We've got this new idea. This hand is reaching out to grab. Like aces are only work if you're like grabbing that opportunity, right? Like if you're not grabbing the opportunity of the ace, you're not going to get the benefit of it, right? So it's that passion. It's that sort of, it's fiery. It's sort of burning stuff up. It's shaking stuff. So to break out of this pattern of like established, maybe stagnant, stale, restrictive way of thinking, you need to bring in and grab some like new ideas, something that gets you impassioned. And then we have the Queen of Ammonites, and the Queen, you know, she's right up there. She's organizing, she's managing things. And we've got the suit of earth, we've got the coins, the material. So it's like taking that the idea of something, the passion, shaking up those ideas, but grounding that in sort of action and like managing stuff. Like it's all very well having passion, but if you're not putting in like the material effort or like managing shit, like nothing's going to happen. It's like a process, right? So this desert, like what is the desert trying to say? The desert is saying, you know, stop trying to, maybe conserving things can be good, right? Conserving, you know, conserving water, conserving your energy if you're tired, conserving your heat, because the desert can get really cold at night, and that can be, that served you for a while, but actually embrace the heat of the desert, and just let it burn you up, and you will find that you will be, you know, you will reap the benefits. You'll get the material benefits from that, or whatever it is, results from that. I just said I wasn't going to read it, and I just fucking read it. Jeez. Anyway, so yeah, so you can like do a little thing, you know, and of course you could ask, you know, a more specific question or a more vague question. You could again use the this is in the places section of the deck. You could again look at these different meanings. and to formulate a question off of this. You might say like, this a situation may seem too hot to handle right now, but things will eventually cool down. Try not to waste your time fighting or worrying about it, and then sort of do a reading off of that, for example. I don't know. So that's your sort of your excavation. I just realized I've just used like the dinosaur deck for the excavate prompt. I hadn't even realized what I did there, but we're uncovering some fossils clearly. Okay, so that's that one, and then I'm going to go to the archetypes oracle for the next two prompts. Okay. All right. Okay. So here we have the original archetypes deck in the original size. I do have the mini version. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. I love it. It's so much easier to shuffle, and so this is going to become like my display version, so that I can display. You know, if I'm working with an archetype, I can put it up on my desk or my altar space, and then if I'm doing actual like full-on readings, or shuffling or pulling cards, even if it's just one card, I'm going to stick with this little one because it's so much better on my poor little hands. So yeah, so let's go with this. So the third prompt I have is R, research, or rabbit hole. Which other one you prefer? I kind of prefer rabbit hole because I have a squirrel brain and I'm always like running down, or that would be like a fox brain running down rabbit holes. I don't know. I have a squirrel brain and I'm always going down little holes and little side quests. And yeah, you know, but research works. Research works, that rhymes. And actually, well, I think about it, this is very much like one of the sections in the book. The book to this is great. It's really meaty. It's chunky. It gives you lots of information. It gives you spreads. Where is it? There's one. Where is it? Let's see. Follow the image, actually. Yeah, so this is quite good, where you're pulling a card. Here, see where I said about the riff earlier, and where you're sort of like, you know, coming up with just riffing off the card or the prompt or the archetype. And then she has amplify it, which is to like research it, right? Which is what I'm doing. And then she goes on to sort of further steps within this particular kind of avenue of questioning and delving, but I'm going to be going on a slightly different tip. But yeah, so research. So for example, with this deck again, why am I shuffling it? I'm just making life hard for myself. Let's just pull a card. We'll pull an archetype. So we have the animal. That's interesting. So because it's very broad, right? But when I say research, so you could do your pondering, you could do your excavating, you could do any or all or any combination of these. You could do none of them, obviously, no one's forcing you to do them. But yeah, it's just, you could pick the ones that you like and leave the ones you don't. But with regards to the animal and the archetype of the animal, if you're researching, you could research, you know, what is the definition of an animal. You could then look up animal myths, because that's actually what it says in the guidebook to this deck. It says type in the word into a search engine and then the word myth afterwards, or animal fairy tales, animal folklore, that kind of thing. You could tie it to where you live, your specific area. So you could look at animal folklore, you know, wherever it is that you live or where you're from, or an area that you might be particularly interested in, or you could look at I'm just riffing here because I'm going off the card. You could riff on like, what does animal mean when we talk about people acting like animals, or what does it mean to act on animal instinct, or you know, I'm getting a bit stumped because it is such a broad card, but you know what, you get the gist, right? Like the archetype of the animal, and then sort of researching. Let's find one that's makes a bit more like, I guess the archetypes deck is a harder one to research in that sense, because it is archetypes, but it is something that is covered in the guidebook. I was research what it means to be a gape could send you down some pretty not safe for work holes. Wrong word to use. Meow meow meow. Like mountain could be quite an interesting one. You could pick a mountain and research about it. I mean, the one that immediately comes to mind, because I'm a morbid fucking bitch, is Mount Everest, and all the bodies that of previous hikers that have not made it up, mountaineerers that have not made it up, and their bodies act as signpost markers for how far you've gotten up Everest, because it's too dangerous to take those, like get those bodies retrieved and to give them a burial, so they just stay there. And they like get named after like the clothing that they're wearing. It's really grim, but it's also because, like I said, I'm a morbid bitch. I find it fascinating. Forest, you could, you know, riff off what is the definition of a forest. Pick a forest. Maybe there's a forest near you. What animals living in it? Let's tie back to the animal card. You see what I mean? Like, you can riff. And let's go just for a second, actually, just go, because I think this idea of research probably works better with this deck. Again, I'm just using these decks as examples. You can do it with any deck. So this deck, for example, has like plants, it has trees, it has very specific animals, right? So this is probably easier, because then you're like, you can riff off of like what it means, a peacock means to you, or what you think about when you think of peacock. I just realized I keep knocking the bloody like because I'm sort of shaking about my flooring. It's making the desk, and therefore the cradle that the phone is in, is making it wobble. So I apologize. I get very animated and my hands are waving around and I'm like, ah, and then everything starts wibble wobbling. You know, bone, even you could do research on bone, like what is a bone, what's the composition of bone, how does bone repair, that kind of thing. We've got toad, but hang on, I was going to find, let me find one. Okay, so like mandrake, right? This is a good one because it's a plant and you can like research into it, right? So for example, as someone who's interested in herbalism, I know how important it is to always make sure that when you are looking up a plant, searching for a plant, you're going by the Latin name, right? So for example, mandrake root, what we think of when we think of mandrake root, these ones that look like people, this particular, or like when you look at like old grimoires or magical practices from like mainland Europe and the British Isles and so on, and from Ireland. I don't know if mandrake grows in Ireland, to be honest. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. The mandrake that's called mandrake in the USA is different. It's not the same thing. They're different plants. So, and of course then there's different versions of a plant as well, like basil. There's so many different types of basil, for example, but we have like that umbrella term of basil. But so it's important to understand that, you know, if you're looking for mandrake for a spell or for like maybe for medicinal purposes, I don't know, I'm not like you know, not all plants are safe to consume or use, but you know what I mean. You want to make sure that you're getting the right one, or if you can't get the right one, that the substitute that you're using is appropriate, right? You might, I don't know if there's mistletoe on this, I don't know, but I think of like, oh, there's mugwort. I love mugwort. I like to have mugwort tea to aid me in dream work and meditation work. Mugwort, you could look up the medicinal and magical uses of mugwort. You're going on a research, you're going down rabbit holes. Maybe you can look at folklore surrounding mugwort. You can look up some spells involving mugwort. You know, just there's so many different ways that you can sort of research and go down rabbit holes with just a single card, right? Let alone doing like a whole reading with, you know, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 cards. So I'm just standing here shuffling. I'm sorry if that noise is annoying. So yeah, so that's your research, and then I will just go back to just the archetypes oracle for the final prompt, which is C for the perk, the in the perk, which is create, and I think this is actually a really nice one to that will trying to keep the pretty things in, because my videos just usually look like hot garbage, is to create. And so there are obviously, what do we mean when we create? It could be anything, right? So riffing could be almost a form of creation, because you're doing stream of consciousness and you're creating this flow of words. But you could also create words in a much more I've just realised the desert. I hadn't even clocked. I just looked and read it, and it's the desert. Isn't that funny? The desert clearly has a message for me today. I'm going to read the desert of both of these decks after I finish filming this video. But for demonstration purposes, we will pick a different one. I know. Let's just consciously, as I like to call it, consciously pick That's because that's what it is. I'm consciously picking something. Bloody, that's a good one. Hang on a minute. Hold your horses. So let's go with mask, right? Okay. So you're creating. Ew, I got like spit on it. Ew. I don't think that was spit. I think that was tea, to be honest, from the outside of my mug. But anyway, so when I say create, and I was talking about writing, you could write a poem. Oh, that was my knees. Did you hear that? Fuck me. I just felt like I needed to like bend my knees, and they made like a proper clicking. If you didn't hear that, it was gross. So yeah, you can write a poem. It doesn't have to rhyme. You could write a haiku. Haikus are fun. They're pretty quick. They're pretty easy to write, and it gets the old grey matter stretching and whirring, coming up with, making sure that it fits within the parameters of a haiku. You could maybe you could do a bit of painting, you could do a bit of drawing, a bit of doodling, you could do a bit of collage, digital collage, you could do analog collage, a bit of art journaling. I'm partial to a bit of art journaling and collage myself, to be honest. There's so many different. You could write a song. Or just a tune. It doesn't have to have lyrics. You could just write a tune if you're a musician or a composer, or you just like to noodle around on a guitar or a piano or a kazoo. I don't fucking know, like whatever it is, on the old ukulele, the harmonica, the boron, whatever it is. Have a little noodle around. Come up with something that makes you think of the mask. For me, I think one of the funniest things you could do is to make a mask. So you can buy pre-made masks. You could buy full face masks, a bit like this one, or you can get like the sort of the half mask ones, and you can paint it, collage it, glue shit to it, or you can buy like a Mardi Gras, like the Venetian, you can get in like fancy dress shops where they have like the little fold down stick to hold them, and they're just like, again, just covers the eyes. But you can get ones that are just like plain black satin or white satin or whatever, and then you could decorate that. You could like, I don't know, hot glue some rhinestones to it, and some like ruffles, some frills, some pom-poms. I don't know, have fun with it. You could sort of literally just draw out a face shape and cut out some like holes for the eyes and the mouth, and some little nose holes, and like paint that. It doesn't have to be, that's pretty easy to do, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because people go, oh, I can't paint, I can't draw, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be good at something to enjoy something. I hate this whole idea that you have to be like good at something to be able to do it. And actually the only way you get good at doing something is by doing it. And I need to heed this advice myself, because when I get rusty, when I haven't drawn anything for a while, or I haven't painted anything or sewn anything for a while, I get sort of in my own head about like, oh, well, there's no point in trying to make this thing because it won't be perfect. But it's just because I'm out of practice, once I get back in the saddle, it usually sort of, there's like a very quick sort of incline to getting back to where I was. And I didn't start knowing how to draw or knowing how to paint or knowing how to sew, and I still could always improve, and your style always evolves. And even if you don't, I consider myself an artist and creator. I've always had creative jobs. I've always made a living through creativity. It's just how I am. But you don't have to be that kind of person to enjoy. You could be a plumber or a doctor or a teacher. It doesn't matter. You can still have fun making stuff. So mask, I think, was quite a fun way of like exploring that idea. And this almost, in a way, you've got some collage going on here. We've got some paint, we've got some ink and line work, and then we've got this like cut out of maybe from a magazine of some kind of stone mask looking sculpture, or an actual mask. Have fun with it. So that's the create idea that I came up with. So that's P.E.R.C. Ways to have a play with your, again, like it can be your any decks. It doesn't have to be Oracle, but because I'm trying to get more play out of the more limited number of Oracle decks that I have, I'm trying to come up with more ways of working with them. And of course, these I've collaged about tarot, I've painted about tarot, I've written poetry about tarot. So again, I don't think any of this is particularly sort of groundbreaking, but I just like the P.E.R.C. idea. So if you're getting like stuck and you're like, oh, I don't really know how to work with an oracle deck, or what to do with these cards, or what I've pulled a card for the week now, what the fuck, what, you know, rather than just writing down what the meaning means in the book and then coming back and looking to how that related to your week or what have you, which is what I mean, I do that. There's nothing wrong with it. I do that as well. But like, if you want to go a little bit further, you want to get a bit more, squeeze a bit more juice out of them, yeah, think of P.E.R.C. Yeah, ponder, ponder, excavate, research, create. And I have to be honest, I almost said them the wrong way around, because when I wrote them down when I was coming up with these ideas, I actually wrote it down ponder, research, because in my head the way that I would actually do it would be to ponder something, then research it, then maybe create or excavate would probably be one or the other way around. But then I wanted to come up with the acronym, but actually I do think the acronym, the way round of doing it with the acronym, works quite nicely now that I think about it. So you're pondering something, you're excavating into it, or you could excavate and ponder, but essentially the order that you do it in or don't do it in, or if you do some of them or you do all of them or you do none of them, it doesn't really matter, because the whole point was to have an acronym. But my point, me waffling on and fluffing up the end of this video and making it turn into a hot mess, is that the acronym is just there to help you remember the words, and it doesn't matter like if you do any or all of them in any particular, you just do you boo, whatever order, or none, or no order, disorder. Wow, so yeah, managed to get that in on just over 45, coming up for 36 minutes, 36, no, 36 minutes. So that's pretty good, that's a bit quicker. So yeah, what do you think? Let me know. I've had fun doing this. My caffeine is starting to kick in as I'm winding this video up. That's just sod's law, isn't it? But oh, it's on the turn though. It's on the turn. Oh, it's not. You know, when it goes a bit too cold, I'm just. I don't know if I'm going to finish that. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. I've had some really great feedback about my other Oracle videos. I'm really enjoying the comments and people saying how they've been enjoying them and how it's given them ideas to play with. Some people have been recommending Oracle decks to me to have a look at, and also deck combinations with the Oracle decks that I've shared with other tarot decks that they have. So yeah, keep your recommendations coming in. I'm loving that. Let me know, out of would you give P.E.R.C a go? And if so, what's your favourite of the prompts? Which of the P.E.R.C is your favourite? And yeah, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch or listen to me waffle on about something I get very excited about. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that wherever you are watching, you are safe and well, and hopefully I'll see you around for the next one. Hey, ciao.